Morning everyone, and today I'm talking about cycling in Tenerife. Now there are two airports in Tenerife, one in the north of the island and one in the south of the island. We flew into the airport in the south, took our bikes with us. I had a Cycon soft bag and my friends Andy and Say had hard Cycon bags. No problem, packed the bikes away, delivered safely by British Airways. Doesn't always happen, I know, but so far we've been lucky. Caught a taxi from the airport to Los Cristianos, one of the main resorts on the south coast. Cost about 40 euros, so very reasonable, split between 3 people. And there were plenty of decent sized taxis, so you'll be able to fit bike boxes in, no problem at all. Los Cristianos is next to Playa Las Americas, one of the largest resorts, and we were staying at a place called the Apartment Oasis Mango, which was an apartment complex. Didn't realise when we booked that although it had a restaurant, this was actually closed for refurbishment, so there was nowhere to get any food actually on site, nor could we get any breakfast, or there wasn't a bar or a lounge area at all. There was a pool, however. However, there was a supermarket just about 5 minutes walk down the road, so we could get food there, and there were plenty of restaurants around within about 5–10 minutes walk. Reasonable value, so no problem to get something to eat. Now we were there to go cycling, and specifically cycling on Mount Teide. Now you can see on this map Mount Teide dominates the whole of Tenerife. It is a volcano, rises to about 3,300 meters, so it is a very substantial mountain and it's snow-capped pretty much year round. The highest point you can cycle to is about 2,200 meters, and the opportunity on Tenerife is to cycle basically from sea level up to the highest point that you can ride, in other words a continuous climb. From where we were staying at the apartment, you came out of the apartment, turned left, and immediately you were on a 12% climb for about 400 meters. And with a couple of short dips, you then didn't stop climbing until you reached the highest point on Mount Teide. So amazing bit of climbing in the mountain. Now we went up through Arona and then San Miguel to a place called Granadilla, and from Granadilla the key part of the climb starts going up to Villaflor. And this was a beautiful climb of about 14 kilometers, hairpin roads, fabulous view down towards the sea and over the lower slopes of the mountain. It was a quiet road going up through pine forests, so there were a few palm fronds and leaves and so forth that had fallen onto the road, but apart from that, road surface was pretty good quality. Beautiful climb up to Villaflor. Villaflor is the main sort of staging post, and from there you can get something to eat, something to drink before you carry on the main next part of the climb, which is about 14 kilometers. The climb up from Granadilla is about 6 or 7% average. Gets a little bit steeper as you go beyond Villaflor. There are a couple of fairly short sections of about 10 or 11, 12%. But all in all, it's a very doable climb. You reach the key junction where there is a sign for the national park, where you get a fabulous view of the snow-capped top of Mount Teide. You then have a small descent and basically follow round the side of Mount Teide to the Parador, which you may have seen many of the pro teams stay at. There's a cafe there, self-service cafe. You can get something to eat, you can get something to drink. It's important to note that between Villaflor and the Parador, there is nowhere that you can get any water or any food. There's no cafes, no the picnic stops, but there's nowhere to buy food, and there's nowhere to get water either. There is a bit of snow melt that comes down off the mountain, but there aren't much in the way of easily accessible streams. So make sure you've got enough to eat, and certainly make sure you've got enough to drink. On the day that we climbed, the weather was fabulous, but you have to remember that you're up in the mountain, and a pretty high mountain at that, so it can easily change. Mist can come in, fog can come in, rain can come in, quite high winds can come in, and in the particular part of the season snow can come in. So it certainly pays to pack a wind jacket, gloves, perhaps a hat, perhaps a neck warmer, leg warmer, knee warmers. If you're going in the colder months, then be prepared. If you're going in the warmer months, you might just get away with a wind jacket, but do be prepared. The weather can change very quickly and become quite severe. Now, we descended from the Parador on a separate descent from the one we climbed up, heading down to Santiago, which you may be able to just see on the map here. Now, this is the longest continuous descent and ascent in Europe. We didn't follow it all the way to sea level, but it is a fabulous descent with a smooth road, some bends, but not a lot of hairpin bends, so you can really bring up some serious speed. Again, not a great deal of traffic, and this was a beautiful road surface. Not quite as interesting as the climb up from Granadilla and Villaflor. It's more open, but you do get fabulous views looking down towards the seafront. You start off above the clouds and then you descend through the clouds, obviously if it's a cloudy day. And it's very noticeable as you get down, the weather warms up. Now, the road back from Santiago to Los Cristianos was not a lot of fun. It's a busy road. It's quite a main artery. It's not unpleasant, but it's not the most beautiful route you can follow. And once you get into Playa Las Americas, and we got there later in the afternoon, it was rush hour time. So there were lots of cars, there were lots of diesel fumes, lots of traffic, lots of trucks, buses, so on and so forth. So a bit like riding around Elephant and Castle or the Old Kent Road, although not quite so enjoyable. The roads generally in this part of Tenerife, not that wonderful. We certainly noticed on the climb up to Mount Teide, the roads are in very good condition. Perhaps some of the pro teams have paid for them to be resurfaced. But further down, the more quieter roads, there's quite a lot of broken up road surface, quite a lot of rocks, pebbles spread over the road, bits of gravel, so you do need to be careful. And the main roads, or the more major roads in Tenerife, are very busy. And we didn't find the Spanish drivers or the Tenerife drivers that considerate. So although there is a kind of cycle lane at the side of the road, it's not particularly wide. And you do get trucks passing quite close, and you do have cars who have a tendency to turn suddenly and not necessarily give you much room. So do be aware of that. Weather-wise, we went towards the end of February, beginning of March, and it was warm. It was in the early 60s. It wasn't quite as warm or as sunny as I thought it would be. I know it's a lot nicer than the beast from the east that we had here in England. But although we had days of good sunshine and quite hot sunshine, and there were people certainly by the pool and occasionally in the pool at the complex, and certainly people sunbathing on the beach, it wasn't quite as warm or quite as hot as I thought it would be. And we also had a fair amount of rain and a fair amount of wind. So Tenerife is known as a destination where you can get pretty good temperatures year round, but that doesn't mean it's going to be perfect every day. We certainly had a good time. We were lucky. Los Cristianos is, how can I put this? It's the kind of resort where there are a lot of karaoke bars, so if you like drinking and karaoke, it's a good place to go. There are lots of good value, cheap restaurants. Many of them serve chips with everything or full English breakfast for 24 hours a day. But in terms of what you might call highbrow entertainment, I didn't get the impression there was much experimental theatre or any opera houses going on. May have been, may just have missed it. So it's a good place for winter sunshine. There is certainly a very large contingent of British tourists, plus also Scandinavians and Germans and quite a few Russians we came across. So it's a good place to go if you want some winter sunshine. And in terms of a cycling destination, Mount Teide is certainly fabulous. There are different routes you can go up the mountain. We went up just a couple of routes. Some of the other routes are accessible from the north side of the island, which would be quite difficult to get to if you were cycling up from the south of the island, because you'd have to get up and over Mount Teide before you can turn around and come back again. So you'd be talking about probably the best part of 100 miles, if not more, plus serious amounts of climbing. On the climb that we did it, we went up from sea level up to about 2,200 meters, so around about 7,000 feet or just below. As I said, it's a very doable climb, but if you're going to be doing that over the other side of Mount Teide, you're probably talking about doing the best part of 15,000 feet of climbing in the course of the day, and that's going to be quite tough. You could get a taxi round to the other side of the island, but that's probably quite expensive and probably take quite a long time as well. So one alternative, I guess, is to fly into the Tenerife North Airport, stay in the north of the island, and then do the routes. As a holiday destination, I'm not sure Tenerife was quite as nice as I thought Mallorca was, but in terms of a single location for cycling and climbing, Mount Teide is superb. Nice weather, good place to go, good year-round sunshine, about a 4.25 flight, not much to complain about. Thanks for listening. See you next time.